I'm Ben Meyer.
And I'm Rob Wright.
And this week we're going to talk a little bit about Star Trek games. We have the captain in the audience as well as resident fanboy Rob. And Leonard Nimoy actually at a Star Trek convention this past week unveiled Star Trek Online, which is the latest Star Trek. It's going to be an MMO from Cryptic Studios.
Yes.
And so we got to thinking about this long history of Star Trek games. So what's interesting about this new MMO, other than the fact that it's an MMO, which is interesting in and of itself?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty big news because it's being developed by Cryptic Studios, which some MMO players will probably know City of Heroes fame. So a proven MMO developer has picked up this title. It was in development with Perpetual Entertainment, and they canceled it for unknown reasons. Maybe because the franchise isn't doing so well right now. Maybe because sci-fi MMOs are, a little dodgy. But Cryptic has assumed the reins of this game. It's very, very good news. And they've given us a little bit of information about the game, such as, just sort of the combination of space sim gameplay with third-person action. You can customize your character. Everybody starts out, or everybody can be a captain, or starts out as a captain.
Yeah, you're like a captain, but you can have different lineages. So
different career paths. You have an engineering background, a doctor, tactical officer, all sorts of things like that. Anything that you would see in a normal Star Trek movie or show. And you can either be a member of Starfleet Academy or the Klingons.
So that's nice.
It's definitely interesting. I mean, me personally, I think that the real, allure of making a Star Trek game would be to really open it up and make, a bunch of different alien races, outside of the Starfleet Academy and outside of the Klingon race, like playable, like, maybe the Romulans. There's the Borg, for crying out loud. I mean, that'd be really interesting if you could play as a Borg. But nevertheless, I mean, I think it's interesting, and they're really, Cryptic is emphasizing sort of the exploration and presenting all of these different worlds across the known galaxy and the different quadrants and the different, to seek out new life and new civilizations. So I mean, it should be interesting.
They do say there's going to be like wormholes and such, so you don't actually have to travel space in real time. A la EVE Online.
Yeah, that would be tough. I mean, I can understand them going around that, so that's definitely a bonus. So.
But it's always a challenge for sci-fi MMOs because it's generally more about plot and about these large-scale battles, which is good for RTSs, and there's been a lot of good sci-fi RTSs, but not so good for the MMO, where you like to build up your character and get lots of stuff for it.
I mean, I think that people that play MMOs, fantasy MMOs, they're used to grinding, they're used to getting lots of items and tricking out the characters and upgrading and getting lots of different weapons and things like that. And I'm not sure how that's going to translate to a Star Trek game, so that'll be a real challenge for Cryptic to find a way to let people enjoy that sort of gameplay that they're used to with other MMOs.
Yeah. So. It will be interesting to see if this is a new era as far as the type of Star Trek games. I mean, Star Trek has probably one of the longest, if not the longest, lineage of interactive games.
Yeah.
Heck, there were games before MS-DOS. I don't even know what the computers were talked about in the early 70s, but they had a text-based game in the early 70s and some of the earliest consoles, pre-NES. A Vectrex system or something. I was like 3, but anyway, they had games from way back when. The one I remember is the 25th anniversary for NES.
Yes, 25th anniversary was a very good game. That's one of the games I think that really stood out in the history of Star Trek games. I mean, there were some good ones. I mean, there was a period I think in the 90s during sort of the heyday of PC gaming, as it were, when there were a lot of good developers, a lot of good titles out there, whether it was, an adventure game like Borg, which, Star Trek Borg was a really original title at the time.
Was it actually a game?
It was like an interactive
It was
movie.
a choose your own adventure DVD or CD-ROM.
It was crazy. I mean, it was definitely a little bit different at that time. I mean, honestly, it makes the cutscenes in Metal Gear Solid look small. I mean, but it was an interesting game. There was that. There was some good RTS games. There was Starfleet Command.
Sure.
There was Star Trek Armada from Activision in I think 2000. Interplay had a lot of good games. Klingon Academy, Starfleet Academy, and what's interesting is that the Star Trek franchise really made its home on the PC, and then sort of around 99, 2000, it started to go south.
Well, one reason is Activision got the interactive rights from Viacom Paramount around, I think, 1998, around that period of time, and that's when sort of the next generation of consoles was coming out, and they were selling really well, and there was a lot of popularity. On the flip side, though, the Star Trek franchise was kind of going down, and there wasn't a lot going on as far as the TV series or the movies at that time. And it got so bad for Activision that they actually sued Viacom to get out of their 10-year deal because they were producing titles and they didn't feel like they were getting backing from the studio. You could also make the argument that they were kind of phoning it in with the games because there were some bad console games.
There were some bad games. I mean, if you just take a look at sort of the history recently in the last decade or so. Star Trek Shattered Universe, the PS2 game that was just dreadful. Conquest for the Wii.
Yeah, Wii controls.
Away Team, even for the PC, Away Team wasn't very good. They took a really good PC game, Elite Force. I really liked Elite Force, and they made it into, they ported it to the consoles, and it was dreadful. And then there's the, handheld games like Tactical Assault. Bethesda started doing some games, and they weren't very good either after Activision, but the one that really hurt was Star Trek Legacy.
Yes. That's probably the most recent title. 2006?
2006, yeah.
And just didn't really pull it together.
Yeah, not
big
good.
scope on that one.
It was being hyped, and it was the fans are really looking forward to this title, me included, because it was bringing all of the captains from all the series together, and, the actors that play those captains, from Shatner to Patrick Stewart, were all coming together to provide, the voice acting for this game. All these guys came together to make this game that was going to span all of the different shows and all the different timelines and periods of Star Trek. And it was going to be this grand epic space sim, and it just, it was bad, man. It was bad.
It kind of fell into, a genre that we've talked about before, and it's just like bad adaptations where you focus on the kind of peripheral things and the superficial things,
and then the gameplay isn't very good.
And then the gameplay is horrible, and it is a video game, and so that is a problem.
Yeah, and that just really, that was sort of the death blow for the franchise on, for gaming, not just on the PC but on the consoles too. And it's been a couple of years now since that game, but now you have Cryptic coming in.
Yeah, now you have Cryptic coming in. Now you have J.J. Abrams coming out with a movie,
a new Star Trek
full-length movie, and maybe things are coming together for the franchise.
Maybe there will be more Star Trek games after this. Maybe I would really like to see some RTS games again in the Star Trek game. I mean, can I have a fanboy moment here, if I may?
You may, sir.
I would really love an RTS based on, sort of the time frame, the storyline from Deep Space Nine with the dissolution of the Klingon Alliance and the Klingons versus the Starfleet versus the Dominion. I mean, that would be incredible. I'd go nuts. I mean, set phasers to stun. I would just go.
So somebody needs to work on that. I do think this would be a great time for an RTS, even if it was console-based. The console RTSs are getting better.
Yeah, they're getting better.
Just because the graphics for RTSs and are so much better than they used to be.
Yeah.
And people have been hitting them out of the park lately, so
it'd
be nice to have a Star Trek one.
We'll see.
But after Legacy, maybe not so much.
Not.
That's all the time we have for this week. I'm Ben Meyer.
And I'm Rob Wright.
And we'll see you next time. And this week we wanted to talk a little bit about Star Wars games. We have Captain
Kirk. What did you just do? You said Star Wars again!
I only said Star Wars once. You said Star Wars. You said Star Wars before.
You said Star Wars.
You did.